session called order at 6:10. There were no actions taken in closed session. So attendance roll call, President Albertson here, Clerk Reed absent, Trustee Lopez, here. Trustee Maxfield, here. Trustee Galindo. Here. Can everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any changes on the agenda? We do not. Okay, perfect. So I just need a motion to approve tonight's agenda and adopt it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our district mission statement: we are a collaborative, culturally rich educational community where a rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. 4.1, public business for the floor on non-agendized items. The portion of this agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on an item regarding board business that is not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to administration, and individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in the audience? No? Okay, perfect. All right, moving on to presentations. 5.1, College and Career Center, Carla Serber.
Hi. Me again. Good evening. It's nice to be here again with you. The last time I spoke to you, I believe, was in September, and I rolled out a lot of initiatives that I had planned to accomplish over the year, and in fact, we accomplished a lot of them, but not all of them. We had our, because of our schedule, we had our pushing calendar, and we're taking time away from classes. Teachers were open to that, they were supportive. It just took us a while to get it rolling, and then once we did, it worked really well. So I'm looking forward to having even more success with that next year. So some of what we did, internships were challenging, again, because of the schedule. So when I could send a student to an internship for 90 minutes instead of 55, it made a difference. But the city of Calistoga continues to be so supportive, as well as the community at large. Police department took on an intern again. Planning and building department took on an intern. The police department, they expose those interns to everything. They even take them to the firing range. And Chief Salaya has so many great contacts in law enforcement, as well as the Justice Department. I believe his wife is a judge down in Napa, so he makes all these great connections for the kids. And then for the building and planning department, they have students scanning old plans and putting them into a computerized system. But he also got to go out into the field and do some damage assessment on concrete, other structures in the city. They worked around the rain schedule, and they really appreciated having him, and he really appreciated being there. And he's already asked me if he can go intern for them again next year. So I said, well, buddy, maybe they'll pay you next year. Because the city's always been really open to doing that. So if he can figure out a work schedule around that, we might lose him as an intern, but he might gain a paycheck. So that'd be okay. Hearts and Hands was also awesome. We placed a student who's very interested in early childhood development. And in fact, through Adventum, first semester, she did a course on early childhood development and becoming a preschool administrator or owner. So then, second semester, she got to go in and actually see what that was like on the ground. So it was a great experience for her as well. Maggie Swarner, and well, you know this, our high school science department is amazing. Maggie Swarner has reached out to these industry partners, and she set up these amazing job shadows. Sorry, those pictures aren't a little bit bigger, but those are all job shadows. And I was basically the transportation and the chaperone, but it was great because it gave me an opportunity to see what's available to give the students as job shadows, and to get to talk to them about their level of interest and excitement about these job shadows. So the top one, these were all very fragrant job shadows. The top one was Napa Sanitation. down just below the Southern Crossing. And we spent a lot of time like this. But we hung in there. The kids were awesome. Chateau Montelena is the second picture, and they're stirring the wine in the barrels. But they also got to be in the lab with the enologist and test for acidity in bricks. And then when we went to the Yerba Mate lab, which is in Sebastopol, they tested for those same two things. And it was wonderful to see our kids and how skilled they are with that lab equipment. They did some tests in the upper one too, but I can't remember. Probably didn't want to know what they were testing for there. But in all three places, the scientists were so excited to see young people so skilled with that lab equipment. So our science department doing a great job. Maggie and I are looking forward to doing a lot more of this next year. And there was support from staff, but we got a little overbearing there at the end. We were taking too many kids out. So we're just going to be a little more mindful of how we impact other people's schedules. And again, I think the block schedule is going to help us with that. Through the support of the city and Rotary and Julie Elkishan, we had a career fair and then a career panel. So 4th through 6th, and then 9th through 12th participated in that career fair. This was in March. And the junior high had a city municipal career panel separate from that. We wanted to make sure that all the kids were engaged, so we just kind of kept the numbers in check this year. Having the 3 groups come over from the elementary school, they paired up with avid 10th and 11th graders who sort of chaperoned them around. We got great feedback from the elementary school teachers like, please don't have so much candy. You send us home with crazy children. Because every table had little goodies for the kids, right? So, but also to front load a little bit more for them so they know a little bit more about what they were looking for, and to better prepare our chaperones as well. So they would have a little bit better handle on what their expectations were for the littles. And then Maria DiGiulio, Calistoga Promise, worked with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Calistoga Chamber of Commerce to create a mixer. We got to talking about how our kids don't know how to network. So we had a rep from the Small Business Development Center in Napa come in, and he workshopped with the kids one day on networking skills, and then the next day we had the mixer. And the chamber asked their members to come in and shake hands and make eye contact, and the kids got to hold food in one hand and drink in another while they interacted, and they all had business cards to give to people. So a couple of jobs, possibly a couple of internships came out of that. But overall, the kids really had a valuable experience in learning, how do adults network? What's this look like? How do we do this? And the chamber was very excited and enthusiastic about it as well. It happened on a Thursday. That was a boo-boo on our part because it meant a lot of Rotary folks couldn't come. So we've got that on our checklist for next year to make sure we don't do that again. We've also been doing workshops. I mentioned the networking one. I did a resume builder workshop with all 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Students who chose to had an opportunity to do mock interviews in order to prepare for their Rotary Scholarship interview, their Fields of Opportunity internship interviews, and then any of their interviews they may have gotten out of the mixer. And I also always do thank you letters with the students at the end of the year who get a scholarship. And I've already reached out to the English teachers. It became really apparent this year that we need to be doing a business letter component throughout their 4 years of high school at least.
I want to say thank you, because one night I had to sit down with Lila to do a resume, and she's like, oh, I already did that.
Oh, good.
I called you first. I said, oh, okay.
We get it started.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The challenge is going to be to help them see that it's a living document, and that we check on it every couple of months and fix it up, and yeah, good. These are the themes that we did by grade level in Naviance. So using Naviance for mostly career exploration. We didn't get to do all of these. This was part of our pushing calendar, but I feel confident that we will be able to next year. Had an opportunity to meet with Napa Learns just this morning, and they gave us some great suggestions for how to organize our initiatives around themes. So this will be revisited and revamped according to that meeting. I want to to go back to career fair. I don't know where I said something about the 8th graders going to a career fair. So all 8th graders took a career interest profiler in Naviance, and then a few weeks later, every 8th grader in the Valley went to a career fair at Napa Expo. And they had their Holland interest codes with them, so that directed them to which booths to go to. They were color-coded. So that if I'm a realistic Holland interest code, then these are the folks I probably want to talk to because they match that interest, that style. We did some college tours, mostly Avid students. We took the entire 4th grade to Sonoma State, and that was a huge hit. Sonoma State can't wait to do that with us again. They totally tailored the tour and the presentations to 4th graders. We got to sit with a college admissions counselor who has a 4th grader, so he was very dynamic and very engaging for the littles. 8th grade Avid went to Cal Maritime. 9th grade Avid went to Sacramento State, and 9th grade non-Avid had an opportunity to go to NBC. I'm exploring why that didn't happen. We got 4 or 5 permission slips for that field trip. So perhaps if there's a way I can better communicate with parents that these opportunities exist, we'll get kids to go. Same thing happened with 10th grade. 10th grade Avid went to UC Merced. 10th grade non-Avid had an opportunity to go to UC Davis, and I got 7 permission slips for that one. I did use Naviance Communication to reach out to parents, so I'm open to ideas and suggestions for how to get the kids to go and actually participate in this. 11th grade went to the NBC Transfer Day, and 11th grade Avid went to UC Berkeley. So every grade had an opportunity to go to a college visit. It's getting them to know that they should go. Yes.
So, to college, you just said they were all Avid. You know, what about for our students that are not Avid, that are high performing and are going to college? What college experiences are we having?
So that's my point. They all had an opportunity. For whatever reason, they didn't take it. And that's what I need to explore. So why do 10th graders who aren't in Avid choose not to go to UC Davis?
What about the 8th graders?
So 8th graders, we chose to take them to this career fair instead. So they went on a college tour. 7th grade, they'll go again in 9th grade. But 8th grade, this county-wide college or career fair came up, and that was the opportunity we jumped on because it made sense with what we were doing with career exploration for 8th graders. But like I said, every other grade had an opportunity to go on a college tour, and 5 or 7 permission slips. So any advice you can give me on how to get those parents and those kids, you know.
For kids that are scoring high and not getting Avid, what college visits are for them? Is there anything available for them?
So when I say our non-Avid kids, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
So 10th grade, we have about 20 kids in Avid, and they went to UC Merced. And the rest of the kids could have gone to UC Davis had they signed up. And I put permission slips out through their classes. I sent them reminders in areas of communication. I sent reminders to their parents in areas of communication. And I got 7 permission slips. So there are kids, there were 7 of them that would have loved to have gone to UC Davis. How do I get all of them to go? Because it's not going to hurt any of them, right? It'll be a great experience for them.
Carla?
Yes.
If I may say, probably Zach and Jamie going to talk about it, about Clara groups. One of the strategies that we use at the Valley Family Centers with those groups is to combine the college visit with a fun activity. And usually, you know, the kids are really interested in bringing those permission slips.
Right?
And it is a great thing, you know, spend the whole day. They went to Santa Cruz last year, we visited UC Santa Cruz, and then they went to the boardwalk after, you know, and this year we're planning to do something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a combination.
I got kids to visit 2 colleges once by throwing the boardwalk in there in between. We went to Santa Cruz and San Jose State. Okay, no, that's a great idea, thank you. But I believe firmly that if I can get parents to understand that this is what we're doing, they'll say, yeah, you're going on this field trip, right? I think it was just left a little bit too much to the kids this time. Okay, we had just the one college rep from Grand Canyon University, but Napa Valley College and Santa Rosa Junior College both came and did their rep talk, but also had hands-on application workshops. So every senior who was interested in going to either of those schools was encouraged to, and in fact, many of them did go ahead and complete their application during that time. For scholarships this year, 75 instead of 78. Those are the individual scholarships awarded, so our donors remained fairly consistent. Lost a couple, gained a couple, so that's good. There was less money this year, and part of that is that our students did not apply for a lot of the same regional scholarships as did last year. So we had some students last year who really went out there and beat the pavement and brought in some scholarship money. So, but you can see we're still over where we were in 2017. So I think we're holding steady. What you will see on this slide is the percentage of the class receiving awards, and for 2 years in a row now, every student who has completed a local scholarship application got one. So what happened this year was we had a lot fewer students applying for the local scholarship. So last year, 64% of the senior class applied for and received a local scholarship, and this year it was 56%. The good news is the percent of money going to the top 5 students. You can see back in 2015, 70% of the scholarships went to the top 5 students. So by working with donors to diversify criteria, we're more equitably distributing that money amongst the students. And we did best that year than we've ever done. So only 28% of the money went to the top 5 students this year. Does that make sense? As far as choices, I don't typically show you the year before, but I am this year because I think there's some significant differences that we need to be mindful of. So last year, 54% of the class of 2018 was going to enroll in a 4-year university when they left here. All but 2 of them did that. This year, only 26%, 25.6%, left with the plan of enrolling in a 4-year university. So we have a couple of things going on here. One, the AVID class usually makes up the bulk of that green band, and this year's AVID students didn't have the GPA they needed to earn a Cal Grant. So a lot of them made the decision based on money. The Cal Grants are $5,000 for a CSU, $12,000 for a UC, $9,000 for a private. So that 3.0 is the cutoff for a Cal Grant, and we need to make sure they're getting that.
So you don't think maybe it's just the increased awareness that there's high value in certifications?
That might be why the 2-year certifications band increased. But as far as the 2-year and transferring, we'll get to that in just a minute. Actually, yeah, I have another slide coming up. Kids aren't transferring.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question, Julie.
No, I was making a statement that we've kind of highlighted more that the programs, the 2-year certificate programs that are available at the JCs are very focused programs. And so they're gaining in popularity so that you can take a 2-year certification program and have a really solid skill base in something and
Go right into a
job.
Right.
Where, you know, there's a lot of this happening now where people are saying, is that a better option than going to 4-year college and coming out with?
So what you're saying is that might be the reason why they're scoring below 3.0?
No. I'm just saying that.
That's why that graph is
Changed.
Right. So I'm saying money might be part of it.
She's saying money might be part of it,
It could
and I'm
also be that
saying-
they're signing up for these 2-year certificates, regardless of the money. Yeah. And for one of those certificate programs, the first year is free with the California Promise now, California Community College. Now, based on what I know about these students and their choices for 2-year certificate programs, I'm hopeful, but I'm not real certain that that's what's going on. And the number up there that really concerns me is other, 23%. So nearly a quarter of the senior class doesn't have a plan. Well, they're working, but we know that post-secondary education, either as a certificate or a degree, is going to help them lead a healthier, happier life, right? Because of the income. So last year, we had 11 students. No, I'm sorry, we had 9 students going to a UC. This year, only 3. That's directly impacted by the GPA. So we had 7 acceptances, 6 or 7 acceptances to UC Davis last year, and 1 this year. And that certainly has to do with individual student performance and GPA competitiveness. And I think we also need to be mindful of what are the higher level math and science tracks looking like, because that's what's going to make them competitive with UCs. So, I have National Clearinghouse data to share with you. I was able to download reports that actually list every single student and what they're doing. So, yeah, I didn't trust the National Clearinghouse report, but when I could see actual names and start to piece it together that way, I felt pretty comfortable. And then I was actually able to update it because I know about all these kids that are graduating this year. So in 2012, before we had an AVID program, over 60% of our students either never enrolled in post-secondary or they dropped out. You can see there is a downward trend there. I know we can do better, and I know we want to. And that downward trend is probably attributable, at least in some part, to the AVID program and that direct support for students who want to go to a 4-year. Number in parentheses is the number of students in the class. So again, we want this number to go down. These are kids who aren't enrolling or dropping out once they're enrolling. For those last 3 years, only 4% of those students who started at a 2-year with the intention of transferring have transferred. Only 4%. And that's in line with what we're seeing statewide. Kids who go to 2 years with the intent of transferring don't within 2 years. Sometimes do within 3 years. A little bit better outcome after 4 years. But it's, this is what I've been kind of bugging you all about all along, is it takes them longer, and it will end up costing, according to the Transfer Maze, the publication by an organization whose name I can't remember, it'll cost them $38,000 more for that degree in the long run. Now, the free college for all the community colleges this year could change that, because they're getting a free year. And I'm not hearing the classes are more impacted by that. So one of the fears was that would slow everything down, right? But so far that doesn't seem to be the case. So we've got some work to do. But we're not afraid of hard work, so we're okay. So this is graduated or persisting. So for 2013, 32% of our AVID scholars who went on to a 4-year have graduated, and another 9% are persisting. 2014, better picture, 63% of them are still going strong, either graduated or persisting. I'm super impressed by 2015. Over a quarter of the cohort from 2015 graduated a 4-year university in 4 years. That's pretty good. Same picture for the non-AVID students. So I'm not even sure it's worth making the comparison, because so many of our non-AVID students just aren't interested in a 4-year university. Although looking at that cohort in 2014, that's a group, and who remembers the class of 2014 and those parents? Yeah, those were some involved, engaged, empowered parents, right? Claire's counted there, by the way. See, I know these people. So we'll just move her into the graduating couple. Okay, so now we're moving on to AVID. So as you can see, the planned enrollment for the fall right after high school graduation was pretty high, 16, 17, and 18, and that's a look at 2019. And that leads us, let me go back to that one for just a second. So that leads us back into that swamp of, did they have the GPA to get the money to go to a 4-year? How many of these decisions about going to a 2-year were either enforced because they lost eligibility because of their grades, their senior year, or because they were not eligible for a Cal Grant? So the Avid site team, a couple of years ago, created an Avid sports eligibility policy. And our goal was to make sure that the Avid students who joined Avid out of 6th grade saying they wanted to go to a 4-year university would be eligible to do that and to pay for it. So we bumped it up a bit from CIF. So this student, this fictional student, based on the CIF guidelines, is eligible to play sports with a GPA of 2.29. But their Cal Grant or A through G GPA is only 1.75. So we're concerned of how do we address that? And that's why we created the policy that Avid students would have to have a 2.5 or higher and no D's or F's during any grading period. It's gotten contentious, and we're looking at the best way to move forward with that. We feel strongly. We cannot let kids go on continuing to believe that they're going to go to a 4-year university with those grades. Any questions about that? We do have, the site team presented this to the staff, and we have the full staff support on this. They agree that this is important. My understanding of CIF, if you're ineligible, if you drop below a 2.0 or you have 2 Fs, the previous grading period, formal grading period, then you can't play. And what we're doing in Avid is, if at the quarter, which isn't considered a formal grading period, if it looks like this at the quarter, then if you want to stay in Avid, you can't play the sport. We've not had one student, we've had students lose eligibility, but we've not had one student asked to be exited from the Avid program. And I think as long as we continue, and they sign a contract, as do their parents. And I think as long as we continue to have that conversation with students and parents, so everybody understands why we're doing it, then we should be okay.
Yeah, it's a tough, I know of one student, that's just because he plays football, that has to get out of Avid. But it's a tough juggling act here because you want the kids to excel and have that go into college mindset. But not all teachers take late assignments on that note. And if there's a way to, because if they get that deep, right, they got makeup recovery that they can do, credit recovery. And so that bumps them back up, but yet they miss their sport. And so it's kind of, there's a way for you to get back up, but you're going to miss the sport. That's the punishment I have problems with. But I definitely don't want to take away from that importance. Get it right the first time, and you won't have to go through all this.
Right.
But the different teachers and their different requirements, I would say that is a tad bit unfair because they don't get to pick which class they want. And so, I mean, good luck with whatever y'all come up with, because I just want to say out loud.
Well, and I think one of the ways to avoid that is to more fully include the parents in the decision. So I have sat down with a parent, with a student, when the student is failing and not living up to his Avid contract, and the parent said, that's it, no more sports. I didn't have to make the call. The parent understood what was going on. I think if we're including parents, which hasn't always been done, that we'll be a lot better off. But I think dipping back down to 2.0 is just, I mean, look at this, the student has an F in math and a D in science, and they need those to get into college. And I hear what you're saying about grading periods, and sometimes the grade book isn't updated or whatever that situation is, but I consider it a consequence, but not so much a punishment. And every student coming in has said, I want to go to college, and we're saying, this is how we know you can make that happen.
But what I'm saying is the fact that they receive that D and that F, that they would be able to take a credit recovery, Apex, I believe it is, and some of the other, where that gets, fixed, right? They gotta put in the extra to get their credits back, but yet they missed out on an event, like sports, if you will. Are they banned from dances or anything like that? All the others, they're not. So that would impact them alone and not the team. And I mean, it's just, whatever you guys can do.
Well, we certainly appreciate your support, because part of what we need to do is make sure the community understands why we're doing this. And in my heart and mind, I know that this policy has merit. I can look at the senior class and tell you this policy has merit. We cannot graduate another Avid senior class that can't get money. It's unfair. We have parents who are shocked that their students don't have Cte Grants. And we can't let that happen. Fall-to-fall persistence is always something we want to look at. Are they re-enrolling? And for our Avid scholars, yes, they are. We're doing good. So if we can get them there, they're going back. And these are all Hispanic students. The national comparator is Hispanic as well. Another thing we need to look at is we've tried having the same teacher move up with the kids, and we've tried not having the same teacher move up with the kids. We're looking at some data that is causing us to think, you know what, we really need to have our teachers stick with the kids. So across the bottom, you see the year and the number of teachers they had. I split that out by green bar is the total number of Avid students. The brown bar at the bottom is male. So we're keeping more kids in Avid if they stay with the same teacher, and especially we're keeping more male students in Avid, which is always nationwide is an issue. Keeping those guys focused and on track. Okay, moving forward. That is our very own Amy Palma, 5th grade teacher bid report. I never remember because she's moving around a bit. Okay. At Bouchon Bakery. So she's part of the Napa Learns externship this summer. I am too. I'll be at Solage tomorrow. Amy will also be going to, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that, Bardessono? Is that it? And Napa Valley Wine Train. So we're both in the hospitality tracks. Maggie Swarner was going to do the wine industry track, and we're hoping she's going to be able to join another cohort. She got sick the week after school, common teacher problem, and wasn't able to participate, but we're going to go loop back in there. So Napa Learns created this experience in conjunction with Napa County Office of Education. They're paying us a little something to be over there. We're learning, my attraction here is to go to Solage and learn about all the opportunities in the hospitality industry that our students don't know about, so that I can come back and through firsthand knowledge share that information with them. And we also have our Auberge partnership, and I've already met with Ursula over at Solage, and we're looking at internships for Solage, and then job shadows for Callistonian Ranch, so that I'll be taking groups of kids down for a half day or something. So super excited about that. So upcoming goals, definitely need to increase student and family use of Naviance. I really want that to be the place they go to when they have a question about a career. I had one kid do that in front of me this year, and it was party time. I was like, I can find that in Naviance. Yes, we do. Expanding services to elementary students, and increasing internships, career exploration, job shadow, and work study. Targeted post-secondary exploration, that would be taking a van of 7 kids over to look at the certificate programs at either of the community colleges, just real targeted. You like doing this? Let's go see what that looks like in a class for the Santa Rosa Junior College. And support parent engagement with college and career exploration. And I feel like I'm way over my time. Sorry about that.
Nicely done.
Yes, thank you, Carla, for all that you
You're
do.
welcome. Other questions?
I was thinking, I'm just already thinking of ways we can get them to go on the field trips. Do you come and do a table? I know that a lot of times you don't have the dates for the field trips set up at the beginning of the year. It's sort of an organic process, but if we could be a little bit more proactive than at open house at the beginning of the year or back to school night, we could really hit them with that then and have the conversation. Plus, I think a one-on-one phone call with the non-Avid parents.
Right.
Just to explain to you exactly what's going on. And do you have a minimum amount of people you want to take, or did you want to have the whole entire non-Avid class be
I
participating?
want the entire non-Avid class.
Is there a threshold that you
A
could have
bus
taken?
full, yeah.
Bus full,
A
meaning
bus
a
full. So depending on
van
which
full
transportation
or-
we're using. Well, so a van full for UC Davis, because we had 7 kids, would have made sense, except my schedule didn't allow me.
Well, definitely reach out, because
Yeah,
you could find, I couldn't have helped. Yeah.
right, but we still need a credentialed teacher to go on the trip.
I do, yeah, to go on the tour.
Well, yeah, to go on. Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, okay. So, but no, we can always do small groups with the vans. We did a lot of driving this year. We did a lot of that, and it worked really well with volunteers as well. But if we can get a bus, those are great suggestions, and I'll touch base with Maureen over the summer. I know part of the struggle last year was figuring out a budget for that. So one of the things we're looking at is staggering the years, right? So Avid has a grant that pays for the college trips for the Avid students. So it's always about how do we fund these other trips. So,
And then I just was curious.
but I thought of
Go ahead.
something else when you said that. I love the idea of having a table and tabling at back to school night. But now that we're going to have a block with advisory again, I can have reps come
Yeah, that's good.
and visit advisory classes, and because the reps are usually college-age students who, can really get them fired up. I say, you want to go to Davis? And they're like, who's Davis? Okay, we have a problem here.
The other thing I was thinking of when you were getting the presentation is I know that Troy didn't choose to do Avid. I know Avid now is open to everybody, whether you had a first-generation parent going to college or not. But his hesitation was that it was giving up one of his electives. Do you think that has been an issue? If they only have because if they sign up for Avid, they have to take it the whole time, right? They can't opt out of it, so that means
No, we let students opt out of Avid.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Well, they have to meet certain criteria that's outlined in their contract, but if they,
I'm just saying, if one semester comes along and they have the choice between culinary and Avid, and they really want to take culinary, then...
we do encourage them to invest in the whole process,
Right.
because there are huge benefits to doing that.
Yeah.
And we won't let someone come in senior year who's never had Avid before.
Right, that makes sense.
Because it just doesn't, everything's really targeted support for Avid scholars that year, who've already had all the training.
I had one last question, and it just popped in my head. I had a couple of students from Palisades that were eager to go to college. I know they're probably not A through G, but is that, do you cater to them as well?
I have not, but that is something that Sandy provided for them. And I don't even know about, if we could do that, I'd be happy to do that, to take, but I don't know what our separations are there. And I don't care whether or not they're A through G. If a kid wants to go look at a college, I will take them. Truthfully, I don't care if they have demerits. Maybe that college visit is what will inspire them to not have demerits.
I totally agree.
And the transfer is an opportunity. So you don't have to have A through G to go look at UC Davis and be inspired. Great, get inspired. Here's where you can start. NVC or SRJC, and this is how you do this.
My 8th grader too is not an Avid, and that's what I was concerned about because
she didn't get a college tour.
Yes, and I know she's going to
She will.
college. She's mad she missed her 4.0 on that final exam. We got knocked down to a B. I'm hoping that we just focus on all students, if we may.
All right, thank you.
Nice job as always.
Okay, 6.2, Michael.
Oh.
No. I'm sorry, 5.2, Up Valley, sorry. Sorry, Jenny.
Good evening. I'm checking your account, excuse my voice. I'm the Executive Director of the Up Valley Family Center. I'm going to be co-presenting with my colleagues tonight, Zach Buzik and Rob Weiss. And I wanted to start by just thanking the school district for 20 years ago believing in the concept of a family resource center based on the school campus. That's when we started. It's been 20 years since we've been providing service in collaboration with the school district. And I want to point you to, in your packets, there is a community impact report. We're not going to look at this at all tonight, But I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for helping us to grow over the years and to have the kind of impact that we've been able to have. And maybe sometime in the future I can come back and talk a little bit more specifically about the Elk Valley Family Centers. The purpose for our conversation and our presentation tonight is to talk with you about the Calistoga Community Schools Initiative, which the Elk Valley Family Centers provides backbone support for, which means basically our education manager, Zach, is supporting a collaborative effort that supports students and their families and the whole community, recognizing that a student needs a lot of resources to be able to succeed, and that with a lot of partnerships, including support of their families, that student has a lot more success at being able to have lifelong success. Okay, so the Calistoga Community Schools Initiative has been going on. We started planning back in 2013, 2014, and we began implementation with a full staff position in 2015, with the vision that all Calistoga students would be lifelong learners, equipped with skills to find success in life and to make a positive impact on the world around them. And we have 4 specific areas that we focus on: early learning, family and student engagement, mental wellness, and healthy bodies. We'll be going to talk specifically about mental wellness this evening. But the idea behind the Calistoga Community Schools Initiative is that we know that students face different transition points throughout their educational journey. Everything from starting to enter kindergarten, moving from elementary to middle and middle to high and then on to college. And that those transition points are most successful supported by families and by the community at large, and by being intentional about those transitions. And so those are the 4 that we've identified starting from the beginning of the initiative. I'll also mention that the initiative leverages over $2 million annually in services to students and families in the district. We currently have 33 partners. Partners are organizational partners. They're listed here. I won't go through all of them. We have partner meetings at least a couple of times a year. We'd love to have you come and attend and participate in any of them, and we'll be happy to announce them as they're coming for the year ahead. We also have a steering committee made up of these individuals, leaders from the district, schools, and various nonprofits. And the other thing in your packet that I'll just point you to, we won't go through it tonight, is we have an evaluation plan. The Calistoga Community Schools Initiative, it's based on a collective impact approach, knowing that it's not just one organization or a school that can have the impacts that we want for our kids, but collectively we can make an impact. And we do that by looking at the data and trying to address where there are gaps and needs and work on those collectively together. So now I'm going to turn it over to Zach.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the counseling services this year. I know this is something that's been widely discussed throughout the school year. I started in July, so I'm going to, all of my information tonight is from the perspective of what I was able to accomplish this year with the initiative, but I want to put it in the perspective of where we were last year and where we are now. So in 2017-2018, we had 76 referrals at the junior senior high school and 55 referrals for counseling services at the elementary school. In 2018-2019, we had 74 at the junior senior high, 57 at the elementary school. Total, it's the same number of referrals at each site, or at each year. But in 2018-2019, we were able to see 51 students at the junior senior high for services and 35 students at the elementary school. So we actually were able to see 13 more students this year than we did last year with the same amount of resources that we had available to us. Some things to point out are the wait list. So we had 23 students that remained unserved this year at Calistoga Junior Senior High, and we had 22 that remained unserved at the elementary school. We're going to get to it in the next slide. Rob's going to help me discuss that a little bit, talking about what we're going to do to address that. But I just wanted to point out the growth that we did see at each site over this year by retuning, refining our process. How the counseling services kind of work and how students get connected is there are bi-weekly 14 meetings that happen at each site. So the school administrators are there, school psychologist, at the high school, the school counselor, Michelle Craig-Morales is there, along with Valley Family Centers, Mentis staff, usually the therapists that are on site for those days of the 14. And at the high school, all day, Children and Family Services are here, the Boys and Girls Club and ACE are also a part of those meetings. And what we do is we take all of the referrals and we look at where's the need, who needs what service, and we prioritize based on the level of severity of the referral. And that's where we attach the services. So for next year, some of the next steps that we're taking, we're developing a way to monitor student progress in real time. Currently, there's a spreadsheet that we exchange every 14 meeting. We're going to have a living document that people can check in on that's in real time, so people can see the list, they can see who's been assigned a counselor, how long they've been with that counselor. One of the ideas that was floated by both principals at the elementary school and the high school were possibly having a district-wide 14 meeting, either monthly or bi-monthly, where we're able to take a kind of wider lens view of the services in the district and see if we can allocate them a little bit differently based on if there may be a higher level of need at the high school versus the elementary school. This next year coming up, special education counseling services are going to be absorbed more by the district with the new school psychologist position, so that will free up some of those waitlist spots. We're also working on tiering interventions for the students. So we know that not every student is going to be able to receive one-on-one counseling immediately. So how can we get them attached to a service that's going to be beneficial in the beginning? So we have restorative practices, which started at the elementary school. We actually saw 29 students this year with family center referrals. So Stephanie Ortiz, our diversion coordinator, also provides restorative services at the district, and she was receiving referrals from teachers for students who may be higher need than the level of service they were doing in the classroom. So that's one intervention. Our Clara and Clara mentoring programs, we're going to be able to attach more students to those mentors, getting them those services sooner, getting those check-ins, keeping up with their grades, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Leveraging the resources with ACE. A lot of kids sign up for ACE. A lot of the kids use the ACE mentoring, but we're going to try and target some of the kids who may need a little extra boost at the beginning of the year and connect them with ACE sooner. Aldea, which is drug and alcohol prevention, they run prevention groups, and we're going to also try and connect those lower need students with those groups at the beginning, just kind of providing them a space where they can talk about their issues, talk about problems in a safe place that isn't necessarily creating a therapeutic plan for their success. For students with higher needs, the county and Aldea have the ability to pick up those students based on certain eligibility criteria, and that's mostly Medi-Cal. And then they also, Rob can speak a little bit more to it, but the severity of the symptoms are what qualify for them for those services, so we're going to try and attach those students to those services when appropriate. And lastly, we're going to try again to implement some social skills groups. Nicole at the elementary school would like to bring those back with the therapists. One of the issues that we ran into is Calistoga is a small town. A lot of these kids have been in school with each other for forever, and they don't necessarily like the idea of sitting in a group therapy session with their peers who they are trying to at least keep some level of privacy between with regards to their personal issues. But we believe that there's another way to try and address that this year. We're going to flesh that out with the counselors and the principals. But I'm going to pass it over to Rob so he can talk a little bit more about Mentis' model.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all again. And I just want to begin by thanking you all for your ongoing support of mental health services in this district. Really, it is outstanding. Not every district does this, and I think the benefits are enormous. So I want to give you all credit. Thanks very much. We've been really effective. I mean, I think as Zach pointed out, we're continuing to serve more students every year. Our outcomes remain quite strong. Consistently, we have outcome measures around depression, anxiety, trauma, functionality that we administer at the beginning of treatment and then again at the end. And we see good numbers. This year is no exception. Consistently in the 70, 80 percentile of improvement, which is quite good given the type of service we deliver. And what we're asking of youth, and oftentimes some of the real benefits of the therapy and counseling aren't immediately available. Many are, I think, in terms of just better attendance, better engagement with peers, hopefully, better grades, less disruption in classes, all those sorts of things we want to see. But sometimes there's some planting of seeds and long-term impact. So I'm really pleased. I think the challenge, of course, is, as you all well know, some of the students that you're working with, their families, have a multitude of issues and challenges they're trying to face and they're coping with that are pretty significant. So part of our challenge is to try and figure out how do we provide this service in a way that gives each of these kids what they need, supports the family, but also allows for a flow in and out so that we can use our resources and capacity in a way that provides much coverage. So I really think, all these bullet points you see above and Zach talked about, I'm optimistic that I think we can really cut into the wait list this year. And it's really about using resources well, I think good assessment, and it's about levels of care and trying to make sure that we're placing the students in the right level of care based upon what they need. Because what we don't want to see is kind of just year after year, the same kid or the same problems kind of cycling it out. So the balance is how can we get people and give them what they need so that it holds, but give them enough so they don't cycle it over. So I think when I look at this, one of the key points that I think we're really, as Zach said, we're going to have this real-time system where our school-based coordinators really going to work with Zach, and we can really look closely at the students on a case-by-case basis and really figure out kind of where we're at, who we can kind of wrap up with, how can we integrate new students and make sure that we really have no downtime and a nice flow in and out between terminating current students starting new. So I think this real-time analysis is going to help a lot. I think the core team, the meetings are good, interdisciplinary. It's always great we're here together, put all heads together, see where we're at, get a broad look at the students, and that helps us to gauge how much more support they need when we can make some changes. Special ed piece, that's good. Again, I think Clara is effective. I think trying to use the drug and alcohol piece, if they have some prevention groups, that is another useful way of being smart about resources. And I want to comment on the County Aldea Partnership for higher end needs. This is really kids that meet the criteria for what's called full scope EPSDT Medi-Cal. Basically, this is what's called STDs, emotionally disturbed kids on the severe end of the scale. So the criteria is pretty strict and pretty rigid to meet that. However, there are some kids who need more intensive work, and the nice thing about that, these are funds that the county is able to pull down from the state and the feds, and they have a contract value. So if we can siphon kids off and meet that funding criteria, that makes a lot of sense. It's a good use of a resource. That frees up the Mentis therapist to continue to work with the rest of the student body and really maximize the capacity that we bring every week. And groups are been a mixed bag. We're going to keep trying. We've been successful with some social skills building groups at the middle school. I think we can do it again. It's just, it's the proper curriculum and setting up in a way that there's a level of intimacy that we have boundaries we can respect while still giving kids a format some of the skills and tools they need to deal with some of the issues they're facing. And usually it kind of breaks down to it's anxiety, it's depression, it's trauma, it's peer relationships, it's family challenges, we're in this social media environment that amplifies everything. So that's I think an overview. And again, I think it's going really well. It's a great partnership with the Family Center. It's a really strong model, and I'm really pleased to be able to continue.
I was just curious if you have any capability of, and you probably are already doing this, but pushing into the teachers, giving them tools, like using some of your resources to push into the teachers a little bit of professional development or in their meetings, or is there any collaboration that goes with giving them a little training?
We certainly could look at that.
It's been a topic of conversation throughout the years, and I think it's like Zach wants to speak of. We're willing to do that, absolutely.
It's
We've
the
done
time.
work with teachers over the years, and just, we could do that. I think, again, it's just a matter of how do we want to use resources and what's the best way to do that, and how do you give them some basic tools that might be useful.
And I think one of the ways that we're looking to do that this year is with restorative practices. So it's been implemented at the elementary school with a pretty substantial level of success. I mean, even the administrators have reported anecdotally they're seeing less students in the office less frequently. The nice thing about this partnership is that we have our own staff from the Family Center that are also trained in these practices, so those students who need that extra level of care or might need that extra level of support, we're able to work with the teacher and create a schedule where we pull those kids out and create groups. So at the elementary school, we actually went by grade level this last semester. Actually, it was last year. We started with kindergarten all the way through 6th grade and pulled teacher referrals and kind of created groups for those kids that need that extra layer of support. And we found that to be fairly successful in working with teachers and kind of planning. The real question logistically that comes up is, especially at the later grades, what class can you pull from? So this block schedule that I keep hearing about that we've been talking about should be really helpful with a lot of that because you're not pulling kids from those core classes anymore. You're not missing math to go receive mental health services, which will be a net benefit for everybody. Teachers will be more comfortable letting students go, and students will conversely not be missing classes that they may have anxiety about. And to go see a therapist, that just kind of perpetuates that cycle. Yeah.
I have questions.
I've had some access to the restorative practices training, and as a teacher, it gave me a lot of resources to help. I just saw a meme the other day that said the child who needs love the most is going to ask for it in the most unloving way. Right. When we can keep that as educators front and center and just sort of realize it's about restorative practices instead of punitive and parents and punishment.
So the number of kids that are on the waiting list, is that the kids that were referred from the challenge day?
No, so actually, challenge day referrals of the kids that were referred, I don't have the numbers memorized, but roughly about 60 kids came out of challenge day that needed immediate follow-up. Of those 60, maybe only 5 ended up wanting to receive counseling services.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and the ones that needed the real immediate follow-up, we actually connected with therapists that week. We're able to see all of those students that were the real, red flag cases that came from that day. So these referrals at the junior senior high school typically come through the school counselor, Michelle Craig Morales, or teacher referrals. Some of the students are actually self-referring, which I think is a really great positive step forward for advocating for yourself. At the elementary school, it's all teacher-based referrals for the most part, where a parent will come in and say, I would like counseling services for my student, and we can connect them that way.
Thank you so much. Obviously, we want to see 0 on the waiting list, but we can definitely do that.
I have some, as I ask my friends that are educators throughout, they comment how lucky Callistonian is to have you guys on campus. The work that you guys do in this community, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, one last thing I want to mention too, in terms of just that continuity, is that all of the mental therapists that were here last week will be here next year as well. So we'll have the continuity of care with the same therapists, which is also very helpful for the students when we're building trust and building that relationship. Because we do have students who we've offered services to 2-3 years in a row, and now they're finally getting around to the point of accepting those services. So, thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing real quick, we have our back to school celebration coming on August 30th, so we hope to see you there.
Now, 6.1. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Director of Facilities.
Sorry, Chris.
So I just wanted to give you a brief update on something that came up recently with the riverbank. After we made it through 18 without the issues, we didn't have the rain we did this year. We've got a small area below the repair that has a small amount of erosion. Nothing that you'd be able to see as an issue, but if you look at the before pictures and then the pictures recently from now the river's gone down, we got to get in there and shore up to make sure that we don't have any further erosion for the upcoming winter season. So I've been working with the ESA again. We initially thought that we'd be able to do a fairly easy repair of just stacking up some rocks, backfilling some dirt, maybe put a few more of those cuttings, the willow tree cuttings that have gone off a little down there. But based on the permit, we're going to need to basically do the same thing we had to do in 2007. So it's basically, it's the same thing, but on a much smaller scale. So all the precautions around the riverbank need to be taken, silt fencing around the project area. Biologists need to come out and relocate any fish in the work area. We didn't think it was going to go out that far, but we are going to be touching water as soon as we touch water that trees. The agency that will be dealing with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So in talking with the ESA, I think we're really trying to get it done this summer because I don't want to impact the elementary school again. For years up until 17, they're constantly work done out there. So ESA is working on their design and plans, scope work to submit to the California Department of Fish and Game. They're fairly confident that Fish and Game can get that turned around in 30 days because the repair itself isn't really the biggest issue. It's the permit, just like it was last time. Been talking with Hanford Mark, they're the company that handles the riverbank work. They're looking at less than 2 weeks to do the job. So a little bit of bad news, but we're really trying to get it done before the summer. Over. And then they've given me all their quotes, and it's about $53,000. And we're just a big chunk of that is dealing with the federal business from California. Yeah, so we're doing our best to get that report. Hanford's got a pretty cool way of doing the repair without bringing in a bunch of machinery. They're going to set up a big drain pipe that goes from the top of the bank down to the bottom, and they'll just send all the materials down, and then there'll be people on the bottom and hand stacking. So they're not really going to bring any equipment. We'll have to bring in some trucks with rocks that are between 700 and 100 pounds, roughly what they're, or 70 and 100 pounds, roughly what they're looking to put in there. So the repair itself isn't a big deal. It's target. So get that squared away and keep you updated on that. And then just a quick update on our bigger projects for the summer with cameras. All the cameras were received at AABF Systems warehouse, and what they do ahead of time is program all the DVRs, all the cameras, they know where they're all going to go. They've already gotten with Napa Valley Networks to determine where all the ports are going to be, and Napa Valley Networks are going to set us up with our own network. So all the behind the scenes work is done. They're going to be out tomorrow to drop off all the equipment, and then they expect to start installing the high school towards the end of this week. And then once summer school's over, the elementary school will go there. And then Wednesday is our project kickoff meeting for lighting replacement CS and the district weapons. So, don't have much information on the schedule on that just yet, but we'll get that all sorted out. Yeah, as far as I know, everything went good. He's just checked in on before he left in the evening. Yeah, Connie had my number, so she can call me. So.
Thank you for that. Okay, 6.2 now, Michael.
All right, we can give you an update on some of the planning that we're doing around professional development for next year. And we've really front-loaded the PD prior to the first student day. So staff will have really 5 days prior to the first student day. And on the first 2 days, the elementary school will be working on response to intervention with Solution Tree, who will provide a trainer for us, focusing on making sure that we have strategic interventions to help all students. And at the junior senior high school, they'll spend 2 days working on restorative practices. It's the same group that worked at the elementary school, and that will transition to the high school, junior high school, and also includes students at the elementary school or Palisades who didn't have access to the training last year. And then on August 16th, will kind of be a nuts and bolts day bloodborne pathogens, datazone, just other necessary trainings that we need to do. And then on August 19th, there'll be a site-based day, so a staff meeting at the site and really principal, administrative team trainings. And then on August 20th, we'll have a teacher work day, and then we'll do our staff luncheon with the whole staff. So that's a lot of PD that will be really at the front end of the year to prepare staff. Something different we're doing this year, which I'm pretty excited about, is prior to those 5 days, the day prior, we'll do an optional work day for new staff. We hired a lot of new staff this year, and we'll do a new staff orientation day. And it's a day to talk really about culture and what we're trying to do culturally in our district. To start to build community with that team. There's something special about being new in a district with other people who are new in a district, and really building a community there, and then seeding all the tools that we use with technology and instruction for those teachers. And then maybe some work time for those teachers as well. We know new teachers just need time. And then we have one remaining professional development day in the year, which is April 13th, where we'll be doing some district-wide work on culturally responsive instruction, which is exciting new territory for us. And in a nutshell, culturally responsive instruction is making sure that all students' cultures are respected in the classroom, represented in instruction, that students see themselves in the instruction that's happening, and we're creating a safe place for all students on our campus. So that's new, exciting, appropriate work for us to do. So that will be on April 13th. So that's really the layout for PD for next year. Any questions or comments on that?
Yeah, that last statement.
Yeah.
Where it says all, I can't say it verbatim.
That's okay.
It said all ethnicities will be respected, and so does that include like wall photos and statements and all that?
Yeah, and I think, not to go too deep into it, but when we say culturally responsive, we're not just talking about race. Students that from any group that they identify with, whether it's race or beyond that. And we're currently working to identify a training group. It's important that we bring a group in with expertise that will bring some methodology with them. So, I can't answer the specifics about whether we'll be doing walls around campus or in classrooms. I think that's still to come. There are some pretty established strategies, instructional strategies with culturally responsive instruction, but we'll have to see, what it really looks like for us. And I think we'll have to discuss what we need as a district, what we want to be effective in our district.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that. Maureen, sorry. Okay, I'm going to give you a state budget adoption update and just let you know some of the things that have been agreed upon between the governor and the legislature. Right now, both committees have agreed, and it's on to the budget committee. Once the budget committee signs that they're in agreement, then it goes to the governor's desk. Because the governor has administration that sits with the legislature and agrees upon a budget, it's unlikely that he's going to veto anything in the budget. So we're assuming all of these things that are being talked about right now at the state level for school districts is going to go through. Prop 98 is going to pass at $81.1 billion, like we talked about earlier last week. Nothing changes there. The COLA stays the same. Major things for our district that are wonderful with this new budget adoption is special education funding. They're trying to level up the funding a little bit. So we'll see a little bit of an increase in per student funding for special education. And then on top of that, they're doing a grant for school districts for preschool age IEP students. And so our district has about 7 of those students right now. We're going to see about a $9,800 grant per student that will come to the district next year. So that's really good news for us. As I talked about last week, we actually have a preschool program for the county, and so hopefully we'll get some kind of credit back for what we're charged to the county for that program. Pension obligations, STRS was on the governor's May revision to reduce the percentage that employers have to pay into STRS for all of our employees. As part of the budget package, it looks like they're going to increase the percentage a little bit for STRS, but they're going to drop some for PERS. Overall, we're going to probably save the same amount of money, but they're going to give a little bit more credit to employers on the PERS side as well. 1920 budget also offers a lot of professional development programs for teachers at the state level. One of the things I wanted to mention, because it, to me, shows that the governor is really concerned for school districts, for teachers, and although we don't have this problem in this district, but school districts actually obtaining teachers and keeping them. They're offering a loan repayment program of about $20,000. So any new teacher that goes into a district that has a high level of emergency credential teachers can receive a loan of up to $20,000 for their credentials. So that's really good news. Cte grants are still on the take for next year, $150 million, and that's good. That means that's ongoing funding for our Cte program. We'll keep applying through Napa County Office of Ed, but it looks like it's here to stay. And then the other thing that's near and dear to Governor Newsom's heart is preschool education, and he has allotted over 8,000 slots for private preschool. He's allotted over 10,000 slots for state preschool programs. And then he's given a lot of money to preschool students with special education needs at the state preschool level. So he's really giving a lot of money to our preschool students, and hopefully we'll see that affect how they come into our school districts as TKs and kindergartners.
Wait, I have a question. When you say that he's funding private preschool spots, what does that mean?
It means that if there's an alternative, if there's a preschool that has a negotiated arrangement with the states, they, as a parent, have an alternative payment program. So if they have low income, they might pay zero, but if they have somewhat of an income, they might pay a reduced rate. And then private places can actually get reimbursements from the state. Other government agencies can do it as well.
I think it's a great thing. We're going to come out of what, 49th in the nation of educational spending. Awesome.
And it's good to see that those slots are opening up for preschool, because I think we're going to see the long-term effects of that eventually too, for sure. The last thing I want to mention is something I didn't really talk about a whole lot last week when I did my presentation, but as part of our 1920 budget adoption, we do have educational protection account funds, and that's, I did say we get $200 per student here at Calistoga. We have to use those funds to pay instruction-related activities. So what we do with those funds, and I have to report out in a public meeting what we do with those funds is we pay teacher salaries. So all of those funds are going to instruction. No administrative expenses come out of those funds, and we'll continue to do so until it's no longer needed to do so.
Where might that be?
Who knows? It'll probably be a new rule after that. Any questions? Okay, let's put forward. Eric.
As I told you last week, the summer program began on last Thursday. All the classes are at capacity. So at the elementary level, that means around 20 to 21, and our high school credit recovery classes have over 30 students enrolled in them. So I was able to make it through a few classrooms. Michael also has been visiting a few classrooms. I'm pleased that the program is off to a good start. And again, I want to give credit to Joel. He's done a great job of organizing it. Outstanding teachers. The other thing I'd like to know is our board policies have finally arrived. We have a big box sitting in our office, so I'll be bringing them back to the board for a global adoption in August. As a reminder, there will be some of those policies that we will have to look at individually because they will require some revisions. So we will do a global adoption, we'll post on the site for specific conditions. And then as an update on the Napa County Committee and School District Reorganization, they're going to be holding their special meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Napa County Office of Education. The committee hired a consultant, that's Christy White from Christy White Associates. She turns out she has quite a bit of experience with territory transfers. And so her job was to do a feasibility study on the proposed transfer and to see whether or not the petition meets the 9 criteria. And that doesn't mean, at this point in time, she is saying that it does meet the 9 criteria, but that doesn't mean that the county office has to approve it. So the plan for tomorrow is to allow both petitioners, the 2 families, and district representatives that would be from both districts, St. Helena and Calistoga, to speak to the committee after Christy's presentation if we have any new information to present or if we have any specific responses to the study. And the committee then will have the opportunity to ask those of us who are there if they have any clarifying questions that we can answer. So I will be attending it. I was told by Josh that they were a little incorrect in the timelines. They actually have 120 days from the public hearing date to make a decision. So he thought it was sooner than that, so there is some time, and he was not sure whether or not the committee would choose to postpone the decision. Tomorrow is just going to be discussion, so I won't really answer until I actually attend the special meeting.
So is the Christie White report, is that available to us before?
I can give you access, yes, we got, it's attached to the special agenda, so I can pass that on to you now.
So have you read it?
I have read it. It meets the 9 criteria.
So is there anything surprising in that?
I don't think so. She didn't make a recommendation. Her job is just simply to say, have they met the 9 criteria? And then the board, the county committee will make that decision, whether or not they support it or oppose it.
Are you going to go, Jeff?
Was that big vote? I don't know.
I'm just curious, in there anywhere, is there discussion about what we talked about, which is just simply a matter of leaving the line to incorporate their properties?
No.
Then opening that whole.
So they're just looking at that one petition, they're not.
They're looking at criteria. She did refer to when the two of you spoke at the public hearing, what the district's position was. That's included within the study, as well as the petitioner's statements.
Just depends on what yours are thought.
So what's the process after the hearing? 180, 160 days?
No, they have a 120-day period from the time the hearing was held to make a decision. So they'll decide tomorrow if they are going to make a decision at tomorrow's meeting or if they're going to push it out and make it a different time. So they can set another special meeting.
So worst case scenario, if they agree to make the adjustment, what's our appeal process?
We can then appeal it to the state, is my understanding. If that's the case, I'll certainly do more investigation.
The way I'm looking at it, it's like we already are one down on that gentleman that was on the meeting the other day.
So I will keep you informed of it until the meeting.
Okay, so 7.1 consent agenda. Actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless any member of the board, audience, or staff requests specific items be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. So is there anybody or any reason we need to remove something from the consent agenda?
I'm nothing.
Perfect. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Vote to approve by some moment.
So Mark, motion. Jeff, second. All in favor? Roll call vote. President Elkison, aye. Clerk Reed, absent. Trustee Lopez? Okay. Trustee Lopez abstain. Trustee Maxfield? And Trustee Galindo?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to action items. Protocol for action items includes staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person. So number 8.2, adoption of the 1920 budget.
Nothing has changed since we met last week and had our public hearings, so I'm not going to do any kind of new presentation. We do have for the 1920 budget year a $16.8 million budget with a projected ending fund balance of 21.23%. And if there's no other questions, we can take a vote to adopt the budget.
Perfect. So if there's no questions, I'm just looking for a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a roll call vote. President Elkison, aye. Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
Trustee Maxfield?
Aye.
And Trustee Galindo?
Aye.
Perfect. 8.3, adoption of the 1920 local control accounting plan.
So this document does have one small change in it compared to the document that you saw at last meeting, and that is the California Healthy Kids Survey results were not available when I first submitted the document. Those arrived today, so those have been put into the document. The results from this year's assessment.
So if there are not any questions, we're going to look for a motion to approve the LCAP.
So moved.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
President Elkishan, aye. Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
Trustee Maxfield?
Aye.
And Trustee Polino?
Aye.
Perfect. 8.4, LCAP federal addendum, sorry.
This addendum is meant to supplement the LCAP. It's a new requirement this year. We were told that it was actually going to be put into place last year, and at the last minute they changed the requirement. So all school districts that receive any federal funds are required to complete this document because we receive both Title I and Title II funds. That's why we had to complete it. So it's just an addendum to the actual LCAP and explains how we're utilizing those funds to support our students who are students in need.
Great. So I'm looking for a motion to go ahead and adopt the addendum.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
And no roll call vote. Perfect. 8.5 is AB 1200 disclosure, California Associated Teachers.
So AB 1200 requires school districts, after they have met and negotiated with bargaining units and have a settlement, that we need to publicly disclose the agreements of that settlement and what the fiscal impact of the settlement is. And so with that, we have AB 1200 disclosure for certificated staff. I provided a backup document with total cost. Compensation for 18-19 school year is about $381,000. And then for year 2 is $154,957, year 3, $113,472. It roughly equates to a 5.49% increase in year 1, a 2.23% increase in year 2, and a 1.63% increase in year 3. What this disclosure also puts out there is the cost of step and column. So even though we don't negotiate the cost of step and column, it is a compensation to our employees, so we do have to publicly disclose that cost. Unless the board has any questions, I recommend.
Great. So we're looking for a motion to ratify the CAP public disclosure notification.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
8.6, AB 1200 disclosure, California School Employees Association.
Okay, same process, and we have in year 1 for CSEA members, $74,606, year 2, $30,263, year 3, $30,745, and that's a 3.14% increase, a 1.27% increase, and a 1.29% increase. Just to summarize a little bit too, 3% increase on the salary schedule is what was overall adopted. And then we also did increase health and welfare caps. So we went with the amount of percentage that we increased certificated. Everyone else got the Me Too clause, and so that was about another 0.57% compensation for health and welfare cap increases.
Great. No questions? I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then 8.7, unrepresented units.
Although we have unrepresented units, which would be our certificated management, our classified management, our confidential employees, we do not have to follow the AB 1200 requirements, but we always want to still disclose what those costs were as well publicly. So with that being said, the total cost for unrepresented units is $29,162, and same type of benefits, a health and welfare cap increase equivalent to what certificated teachers received, and then also 3% on the salary schedule.
Perfect. Great. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the disclosure. Sorry.
So moved.
All right, you guys wake up out there. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Need to hear those ayes. Okay. 8.8, addendum to superintendent's employment agreement.
This is an action to increase the superintendent's salary by 3%. Part of the superintendent's employment agreement is to tie the salary increase to that of the district management employees. So that's what this does. And this is already part of the 2018-2019 budget, which has been presented.
Perfect. So I'm just looking for a motion to approve the addendum to the superintendent's employment agreement as presented.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. 8.9, certificate of classified and unrepresented salary schedules.
This action is to approve the salary schedules for the units. They are attached to this. And this is with the 3% increase that's been presented. These are the actual salary schedules for approval.
Great, thank you for that. I really have that. All standard next. Thanks, Aaron. Okay. So, no, it was a good group effort, but the need to do it is appreciated. So we're looking for a request to approve the salary schedules that's presented.
So moved.
All in favor? 8.10, revised school psychologist job description.
Presenting a school psychologist program specialist job description. Previously, we had 2 separate job descriptions, so we've consolidated them and updated the terminology and modernized it. And it's also transitioned from a management position to a certificated position and also attached to the certificated salary schedule.
Great. So I'm looking for a motion to go ahead and approve the new job description as presented.
Would approve 8.10.
Yeah, 8.10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. 8.11, memorandum of understanding with Napa Valley Adult Education.
This MOU allows for Napa Valley Unified Adult Ed services to be offered in Calistoga. Right now, we're looking at 2 courses. Advanced ESL for in the workplace is 1 course. The second is a diploma track class. We'll be offering those both in the fall and spring. We would like them to offer those classes on our campus. We feel that parents are most comfortable on the school campus. And so we basically, we will receive the funding, and then the consortium will bill us, and we'll maybe bill for that. So I think it's a win-win for the adult learners in our community and the district as well, because a lot of these adults are parents of our students.
And I have to say very well. It is, I've been here for 16 years, and this is the very first time that the adults will turn their eyes with the learning, and it just makes it fun. So thank you for the work that you have done with them.
Thank you too.
And I wonder how we will PR it, because I know that a lot of the wineries and such, we have been sending our classes through Napa Valley Vintners, and we just really PR it to everybody that it's happening.
I've already talked to Zach about that. He said that the family center is going to help with advertising the classes.
That's good. And when you say, what was the second class?
Diploma track.
So is that like GD preparation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
And then they're also looking at the future for possible CTE courses as well. So they're hoping to expand it.
Okay, so I'm just looking for a request to approve the MOU as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Great. 8.12, agreement with Solution Tree.
This is an agreement with Solution Tree. They'll provide training on RTI, response to intervention. This is the work we'll be doing on August 14th and 15th at the elementary school.
Great, so any questions about that? It was pretty outlined in the notes. So looking for a motion to go ahead and approve that.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. 8.13, independent contractor services agreements for restorative practices.
This is an agreement with Restorative Practices to do training on those same dates, but the training that will take place at the junior senior high school by the trainers that trained the elementary school this year.
Questions? No? Okay, looking for a motion.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All in favor? 8.14, approval of proposal for the master plan.
On Friday, Chris and I did phone interviews with our 2 proposals that we did receive for our master plan. One was with Schoolworks, the other was with WC, some architects out of Berkeley. Schoolworks is based out of Roseville. We had 2 fantastic interviews. They answered our questions. We had follow-up questions. They answered those. Fantastic. But in the end, we felt that Schoolworks was going to be the best fit for our school district. They really do come in and tailor everything according to what we need and what we want as a school district. So we felt that they were a good choice. The other good choice about them is that they are not an architectural firm, meaning that they independently do master planning and have been called back quite a few times to other districts to update the master plans, but they do not then have carnal knowledge on being able to bid a project and become an architect of a school district. So given that, we felt that they were probably the best fit for our district. The cost is $94,750, very, very expensive to conduct a master plan these days. But one of the things that they do have is they have a software program that they can provide to the district that will allow us to keep track of all of our capital outlay projects and updates, and there's a cost involved with that as well. So with that being said, we recommend approval of Schoolworks for a master plan so we can get started working with them.
Just a question. So the original master plan, does that have any new buildings in it?
Does it have any new buildings in it? Well, that's part of the master plan, so that's what you conduct when you do the master plan, is configuring all of that.
So my concern is, would they recommend a building that isn't feasible because they're not an architect? Setbacks, building requirements and all that, would that be a hindrance to, or a problem in any part of our hopeful master plan?
No, because they actually have, the consultant group that they work with have architectural licenses and engineering licenses. On top of that, when they're doing the master plan, they're not saying, we're going to build this building and it's going to be built to these specs. They're just saying, the district would like to make sure that in 5 years from now, they're on a path to be able to do A, B, or C when it comes to construction.
So Mark, they make recommendations based on assessment of our programs. So they're not designing the building, just saying this is what your program needs.
Thank you for that clarification.
And obviously it takes into consideration where we were in the past with our phases and everything. I'm wondering with the software program, can we backload the historical stuff into it? That'd be awesome.
Some of them you can, some of them you can, so hopefully that.
Because then we'll then have a real nice historical where we've gone along for the whole.
And what they do is when they go through and do the needs assessment, they're entering all of that in, and then they can turn that over to the district. It's ours to have at the end of the master plan project.
So I have a question for one of you guys. I remember sitting in the school board meeting one time and seeing that big science fair. Is that part of the master plan? The 2-story?
It was part of what we were going to do for the school buildings. We had like 3 ideas. We do tear down the building or do something different. So to answer the question, yes, it's part of what are we going to do, what are our needs. So that's what this is going to address.
Because I like that building.
Yeah, there was a master plan associated with the bond with the 3 phases, but now so much time has gone by and we have had to do other things that now we're sort of regrouping and getting together. And hopefully getting our oversight committee so that we can move forward.
The advertisement is going in.
Awesome.
What is the timeline
For completing the master plan? Well, originally it was to have everything done by December, but in talking with them about and having committee meetings and community meetings as well, I don't want to rush the process just to get done by December. I want to make sure that as we're going through the process, we're being very detail oriented and we're paying attention to what's going on. So if it runs into January or February, I'm okay with that. We just need to make sure that we are on target for going into phase 3 of modernization and making sure that we're spending our bond dollars correctly, and there are timelines that we have to adhere to with that as well. So as long as we're in conjunction with that, I'm okay with running over a couple months, but December is very aggressive at this point.
All right, good, so I'm just looking for a motion to, approve a proposal for the master plan. All in favor? And 8.15, Resolution 181912, authorization to sign on behalf of the governing board. And my name is here. Okay. Am I explaining this?
Actually, I can explain it. You see these resolutions every year, and this just gives authority to various employees in the district to sign public documents on behalf of the district.
Perfect. So this is going to be the period running July 1st, 2019 to June 2020. So I'm just looking for a request to approve the resolution 181912. All in favor? And then similarly, resolution 181913, authorizing end of the year transfers, 1819. So the district business office is authorized to make transfers between designated fund balance and unappropriated fund balance, and any expenditure classification or balance any expenditure classification of the budget of the district for the school year as necessary to permit the payment of obligations of the district incurred during that year. So we were approving Maureen to shift around money as needed.
That is correct.
Okay, so we're looking for a request to approve resolution 181913. Okay, so that's Jeff moving. All in favor?
Just so you know, I do always keep backup and I'm very transparent about it.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody's in favor? And then resolution 181914, bank signatories. So we listed some new bank signatories authorized to sign checks drawn on the account's name below for the 1920 school year. Some people moving out, some people moving in. So I'm looking for an action to approve the resolution to that. All in favor? Aye. Mark, did you say aye?
Yes, aye.
And then 9.1, board meeting calendar. So our next one, we get July off, is August 5th, and then September 9th, and then October 7th. And I guess I just want to ask if anybody's got any conflicts with any of those at this point. As of now, we're okay. All right. And then 9.2, tentative future agenda items, board self-evaluation, which is always fun, and the global policy adoption. And then 9.3, reconvene, there's no need to, and so I'm just looking for that 9.5. Move to adjourn. Okay, Jeff, second?
Second.
Awesome. All in favor? Yay.